Are you looking for all the latest pro football news and content? Of course you are. Who doesn't love football? The question is, how do you get all the latest pro football news and content? There's so many different pro football podcasts on the internet. Which one do you choose? Which one is the right fit for you? Well, you go with the Cross the Middle Show, one of the fastest growing football podcasts out right now. Over the past year, we've climbed the Spotify rankings and become a show you have to listen to if you're a football fan. Find out if the Ravens will go all the way with Odell Beckham Jr. Find out if the Eagles did enough to make it back to the Super Bowl. You'll get all of our best stories for just $1 per month. All you have to do is sign up by clicking the link in the episode description box. I'm John Kuzma. We're at it again on the Cross the Middle Show. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got the Daniel Jones story today. We'll also talk a little bit about Dak Prescott. Let's start with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is putting it all together at these off-season workouts, and all his teammates are saying he's starting to look like a top 10 quarterback. Now, let's not forget when he was coming out of college, his first couple of years in the league, his teammates compared him to Kobe Bryant. I always thought that was a little bit bold, but obviously Daniel Jones was showing his teammates something in practice. Well, now everyone's saying he looks like a top 10 quarterback in the league. He looks like someone that should have got all the money he was asking for this offseason. Remember, he didn't get quite as much as he was asking for. And, his teammates are saying, hey, the Giants should have paid him everything he asked for because it looks like he is going to be that good. Well, we're going to see if Daniel Jones can actually be what his teammates say he is on the field on game day, because apparently he just keeps getting better at practice. And obviously that's a good sign for the Giants. We just have to see it on the field. We saw a little bit of it last year when he won a playoff game and showed that he can be a guy that the team counts on. The other thing with Daniel Jones is he's so good on bootlegs. The Giants love to bootleg with him. I think he bootlegged more than just about any other quarterback in the league just because he's such a good runner that they want to give him the option to run anytime they can. So it kind of turns it into a dual play where there's the option to pass or the option to run if you're Daniel Jones. And because he is such a good runner, that option allows him to play to his strengths because now he can throw it or run it. There's two things that can happen on any passing play. And with how good he runs, he could easily tuck the football and break off a big run. He did that, a bunch of times on his film from last year. So many times he tucked the football on a bootleg, ran, and, he was scoring touchdowns on it because he is so tough to defend when he tucks the football and runs. He did great work with Darius Slayton. He did a good job of getting his tight ends involved. It works for Daniel Jones in that offense. I think what, the new head coach did there, Brian Daboll, I think what he did is he decided to lean on all of Daniel Jones' strengths, which, all great coaches do. They find out what their players do best, then they tap into that. Well, with Daniel Jones, it's his running ability. So they made him kind of a dual threat quarterback where, we're going to have him throw the ball, but he's also going to have the option to run because we're going to roll him out. We're going to fake a run fake. We're going to bootleg him out on the outside. He's going to be on the run. He's going to scan the field, and if he doesn't see anything, we're just going to have him tuck the ball and run it. They built their whole offense around that play. And that's a big reason why the Giants were a playoff team this past year. They ran it over and over and over again, and it opened up so many things for that offense. It makes them harder to defend because they're more versatile. They ran a lot of play actions too because Saquon Barkley was so good. And you could see on tape when they run that play action to Saquon Barkley where, they fake the dive and then Daniel Jones pulls it out and then starts scanning the field. All those linebackers and all those defenders started flying up in run support to fill those gaps. And then there was Darius Slayton wide open underneath. It happened so many times. I mean, that's another staple for this Giants offense. They hit you with the bootlegs. They hit you with the play action passes. It creates a lot of deception for the Giants because, you can't tell if they're going to run it with Saquon Barkley or if they're going to, play action and have Daniel Jones, scan the field. Is Daniel Jones going to run it? So there's so many more things that you have to account for when you play the Giants these days, because it's not just, straight drop back passes. It's play actions. It's bootlegs. It's Saquon Barkley having, some of his best runs he had in his career this past year, just because they did a great job of getting him involved and making sure that he was getting his touches every week, which opened up those play action passes for Daniel Jones. It all was clicking on every level for that Giants offense. Darius Slayton really stepped up, made a bunch of big catches. I mean, it was exciting. And then you add the guys they got this offseason, or the guy they got this offseason, Darren Waller. I mean, that Darren Waller pickup is going to be huge for them. So now they have Darius Slayton, they have Darren Waller. That offense is going to be better. Saquon Barkley is back. Daniel Jones is going to have another year under his belt. He's going to be more confident. I mean, they've done some things on that Giants offense, and they brought some players in that are going to help them, mainly Darren Waller. So we'll see what happens with them. I'm excited to see. The Giants are looking good. There's no doubt about that. They're coming off a playoff appearance. Everybody's more confident. Brian Dable won Coach of the Year. Everything is clicking for the Giants right now, and you can tell that there's optimism surrounding this team just because of what they were able to do this past year. The next story we have is the Dak Prescott story. Is there a sense of urgency for Dak Prescott? Sorry about that. Is there a sense of urgency for Dak Prescott now that he's going to be 30 years old? I really don't think there is a sense of urgency for Dak Prescott, and here's why. I think he's a lot better than people realize. I think he can throw the football better than people give him credit for. And I think the pressure is coming from some of the fan base. Some of the Cowboys fan base are turning against him. But last year, I was really sold on him just because he did throw a nice ball. Yeah, he was struggling with some turnovers, but in the NFL, people are going to go through their highs and their lows just because it's so competitive. Sometimes you just have to weather the storm when you're struggling a little bit. That's life in the NFL, especially for the quarterback position. And it's a lonely position. You're the only quarterback on the field when you're going through your struggles. It's just you. You have to pull yourself out of the darkness. So just because Dak Prescott was struggling doesn't mean it's the end for him. He's got to just find a way to get through it and play better, which he did. And because he was throwing such a nice ball this past year, I wasn't worried about the interceptions, because it was like you only can find so many quarterbacks that can throw that nice of a ball that Dak Prescott throws. It's not easy to find a quarterback that can throw the ball like that. And sure, he had a year where he struggled with some turnovers, but what are you going to do? Are you going to write your starting quarterback off just because he's taking a few licks? No, you can't do that. I mean, who are you gonna bring in that's better than him? I mean, you can try to go to a young quarterback. Well, a young quarterback's going to probably have to have 2 or 3 years learning the game before he even gets close to where Dak Prescott is. So that's not the best move for the Cowboys. The best move is obviously to, build on his strengths and just build him up so he's not focused on his weaknesses right now. Obviously, the weakness this past year was the interceptions and his decision-making, I guess you could say. But he was still throwing such a nice ball. He was still doing a good job with his placement, on the passes that he did complete, that you could kind of see that it was like, okay, yeah, he might be going through a rough patch here with some of the bad decisions and the turnovers that he was struggling with. But there was still enough there with the positives that you could really see, what Dak Prescott was made of if he just gets through the rough patch. So, yeah, like I said, Dak Prescott is still a great thrower of the football, someone that the Cowboys have to, view as someone that's part of their long-term plan, a guy that should be the future for them if he keeps throwing the ball like he did on some of those passes this past year. I mean, look at some of the deep throws he had to CeeDee Lamb when T.Y. Hilton came in. I mean, if we're talking about down the field, he was throwing the football down the field really well. I mean, there's a reason the Cowboys beat the Buccaneers in the playoffs. I mean, it's not easy to go in the playoffs and beat Tom Brady. I know the Buccaneers were having a down year a little bit. Still, I mean, Tom Brady flips that switch in the playoffs and takes his game to another level. Well, Dak Prescott came out slinging that thing. The Cowboys beat the Bucs in the playoffs. They get a big playoff win. Hey, I mean, you got to take the good with the bad. You can't just sit here and say, hey, Dak Prescott has all these turnovers. Well, he also won a playoff game, and the Cowboys are getting closer to winning a Super Bowl. They've gotten better since Dak Prescott has been there. They've gotten closer to going to the big game again. So, you live by the gun, you die by the gun. Yeah, he had some interceptions that were tough to deal with. I know Cowboys fans were frustrated by it. He's also getting you guys closer to winning a Super Bowl. So what are you going to do? Are you going to sit here and complain about the turnovers when he's getting you closer to winning a Super Bowl? Because let's be honest, this team has gotten much better since he's been there in the grand scheme. If you step back and look at the big picture, they've gotten closer. They've gotten better. They're a contender at least. We can take them seriously. Dak Prescott deserves some credit for all that. He has to because, I mean, he's the quarterback. And, there's games where he just airs it out and he's throwing the football all over the place. And it is a flashy brand of football. It's fun to watch. You can't tell me it's not because it is. So, struggles are part of the game for quarterbacks. We've all seen quarterbacks struggle at times. It's so easy to do for the quarterback because at the NFL level, defenses are so good at disguising their coverage. Just because he had 1 year where he really struggled with turnovers, don't write the guy off yet. I mean, I don't even think he has to prove himself anymore. I think he's proven at this point. I think he's proven himself. I mean, the guy can play. One bad year doesn't equate to him being a turnover machine. It was 1 year. Let's focus on this upcoming year and see what he does. I think, with how gifted of a thrower he is, I think the Cowboys are going to be very happy with Dak Prescott this year. So, no, I don't think there's a sense of urgency. I think Cowboys fans are overreacting a little bit. I think they're being too hard on Dak. I think it's easy to point the finger at him when there's other problems that, could be contributing to, maybe some of the problems that the Cowboys have. Let's cut Dak Prescott a little slack and not forget that the Cowboys have a pretty good quarterback under center, because if they lose sight of that, they might lose a really good player. So, no, I don't think there's a sense of urgency for Dak Prescott. I think he's just fine. And I think the Cowboys are getting closer to winning a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott. That's all I got for this latest episode of the Cross the Mill Show. Sign up for $1 per month. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm John Kuzma. I'm signing off.